Guys, in the last segment of our program on Mid Morning Talk, we traveled the globe, and today we're off to Singapore. To talk to us about it is Nur Hazirah Jamaludin. She is a brand strategist manages content across all platforms and is enthusiastic about making travel accessible for everyone. Her goal is to manage a platform that appeals to and remains ever relevant to Muslim millennials across the globe. What a pleasure it is to have you on the program today. Assalamu alaikum, Hazira.
Walaikum salam. Hello. Thank you for having me.
Hello from South Africa.
Hello from
um,
Singapore.
Aha. Well, this is the beauty of our instant mediums that we can actually cross
Mhm.
over and maybe give us a sense of what it's like to visit Singapore. So, give us a brief history on Singapore.
All right. So before I welcome you to Singapore, let me just give you a background on Singapore or myself first. First of all,
Yeah.
hi, I'm from Halal Trip, and Halal Trip is an online travel platform for Muslim travelers. And now we do lifestyle, and then we do blogs, YouTube videos, as well as we also have a podcast called the Halal Travel Podcast. And at the same time, like what you mentioned, we are trying to make it easy for travel for Muslims. So we have halal travel guides that are completely free for everyone to download that we have already collaborated with, travel organizations to produce them for different destinations. So something that you can definitely download on our platforms for free. But now talking about Singapore, I think
Mm.
Singapore is a very small island, and I think you should already know. So before Singapore was named Singapore, it was actually known as Temasek, which is in translation for sea town, because on this island we had a lot of fishermen, or what the Malays call it nelayan. So these fishermen populated the island, so that's why they're called Temasek. And then came someone called Sang Nila Utama. The legend has it that came someone called Sang Nila Utama from Palembang in Indonesia, and he was on a hunting trip on this island where he found an animal that he has never seen before. And apparently,
Okay.
according to his right hand man, the animal is a lion. So
All right.
then when he founded the city, he named it Singapura. So Singapura is Simha for Sanskrit, which is lion, and then Pura
Mm.
is city. So we come with Singapura. And then came another person called Sir Stamford Raffles after a few years, and he named it as Singapore. And then we went through a whole Japanese occupation, and then we went back to the British. So yada, and then you see we have Singapore here today. So that is a
Mhm.
little bit of history on Singapore.
Right. Very, very interesting. And it's a very, very beautiful, picturesque city, actually. We'll talk about the sightseeing and, the culture and all of that, but it's a very modern city, and clean. If there's one thing I've noticed about it.
Alhamdulillah. Yes, we are a very green city and we take cleanliness very seriously. There are a lot of, organizations that, help the community to make sure that our city is clean, because, we're such a small country. So I guess it's a bit easier for us to manage.
Right. So, what is the predominant culture in Singapore?
So in Singapore, we are mainly, I think we call it the core races. We are mainly made up of Malay, which is what I am, Malay, Chinese, Indians, and Eurasians. So these are our four main cultures. As you can see, we have
Mm,
pictures.
mm.
So these four cultures make up the original Singapore. But I think obviously after a few years we have foreign talents having foreign talents in Singapore. So we have a bit of Thailand, we have a bit of Philippines, we have a bit of China. So it really is a melting pot of culture. You don't actually see only one culture in Singapore. So yeah, I think that is some in terms of culture, something that Singaporeans call ourselves is rojak, which is a dish actually. So a rojak is, for example, it is made up of 6 to 5 different ingredients that just get jumbled up together into a dish, and people just eat it like that. So that's how we see ourselves as, I would say.
Hmm. And the Islamic heritage?
So with Islamic heritage, actually, we started off back then in I think in the year 1500s or so when we had the first few immigrants, mostly from South Asia as well as from from the Arabic community, and then they moved here to Singapore to build their own homes and everything. So that's where the start of Islam actually spread in Singapore itself. Um,
Hmm.
if you come by to Singapore, you would see that a lot of mosques, and each mosque would have their own history. So it could be being it was sorry, it was built by someone known within the Muslim community, or actually one of the masjid or one of the mosques that I want to tell everyone here is Masjid Jami, which is situated right next to a temple. So this temple called Sri
Oh,
Mariamman Temple. So these two, yeah, so these two are always being brought up by our national heritage, because it is a symbol to say that in Singapore there is a possibility that we live as a community despite our races, despite our religions. So these two temple and mosques are a great symbol to tell everyone that we can live as a community harmoniously. Yeah.
right. And are there other sites of interest to Muslim tourists?
Yes, obviously there are many. I mean, we're not people who, or like we're not a country who that has mother nature in that sense, not as great as South Africa, I must say. But we do have like family friendly attractions. So if you want to find one place for you to go with your family, I would definitely recommend Sentosa. You have the Sea Aquarium there, you have the Universal Studios, you have the luge. I really enjoy taking the ride up to the top so that you can get a bird's eye view of the entire
Right?
island. So it's really
Wow.
beautiful. Like about 5 p.m. or 6 p.m. or so, it's amazing. Um, yeah, and then the locals like to go for activities like cycling. Cycling is a big thing now in Singapore, and kayaking. So there are a couple of attractions for you to look out for. I think if you were to ask someone who has been to Singapore, I'm pretty sure they would have gone to Kampong Glam, which is Haji Lane or Arab Street. That's where the nightlife is for Malays, Muslims. That's where we go to the weekends. It's crowded, but you get to feel the energy.
Sure.
So yeah,
And meet the locals, right?
yes, yes,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
and that's where they
In ter-
also have a lot. Sorry,
yeah. No,
go
go
ahead.
ahead. Go ahead.
Oh, so that's where they also have lots of performances sometimes at the Heritage Center, and then sometimes if you want to watch free art exhibitions or art performances, you can go to the Esplanade. So there are quite a few of places that even us ourselves as locals go to for like entertainment.
All right. When we come back, we find out about shopping in Singapore.
Moving boundaries, joining hands. Salam Media.
لا تقل لوحدي أو كيف السبيل
Humanity sets the agenda.
تصنع المستحيل.
Hunger ratios in South Africa are on an upward trajectory since the beginning of COVID 19. Over 23% of South African households experienced hunger last summer. At SANZAF, we aim to ease the hunger struggles of those in need by providing freshly prepared meals daily. You can be part of this by donating towards the SANZAF Meals Project. Visit sanzaf.org.za or call us on 011 834 6046. SANZAF, changing lives through development and relief.
Online schooling? Why not? Kurtuba Online Academy is the leading global online Islamic school from grade R to matric, offering South African caps and international syllabus. And it doesn't stop there. We also offer online madrasa for every grade. For more information, visit www.kurtubaonline.co.za. Kurtuba Online Academy, the leading global online Islamic school.
Discover the Africa of your dreams and surround yourself with her spectacular beauty. Relax beneath her serene sunsets and explore wildlife at its natural best. It's where the pride of Africa comes together. The Kwantu Private Game Reserve. Get to know the Big Five or cruise on an elephant safari game drive. Interact with lion and tiger cubs and enjoy world-class halal cuisine while we pamper you during your 5-star stay. Indulge in the true African experience. For reservations, call now on 042 203 1400 or visit kwantu.co.za. The Kwantu Private Game Reserve, the place of gathering.
South Africa, are you ready? Penny Appeal South Africa is proud to announce, for the first time in South Africa, For Good Tour featuring Saeed, Rehan Karim, Muad and friends coming to your city in November 2022.
I'm grateful for every single thing you've given me.
Cape Town, 19th of November. Johannesburg, 20th of November. Durban, 26th of November. Get your tickets via Quicket while seats are available. Proceeds in aid of Children of the World Project. Contact 031 1100 573 or email info@pennyappeal.org.za. See you there. For Good Tour, brought to you by Penny Appeal South Africa.
Listen to something fresh. Listen to Salam Media.
Hazirah Jamaludin, and before the break, I just asked about shopping in Singapore. What would one look for as a souvenir in Singapore?
So shopping in Singapore is, I would say, slightly difficult because I think everybody knows that Singapore is quite an expensive city.
Yes.
So yeah, so I would suggest going to, the Kampong Glam area, going to Chinatown, going to Little India to get your souvenirs, because that's where you get the true authentic cultural takeaways from Singapore. But obviously there are also very young and very small, new brands that are coming up, that produces Singapore souvenirs that I think you can take away from the malls. But I would definitely suggest like going to Kampong Glam, Chinatown, and Little India.
And what about visiting? Can one visit on a budget vacation?
Yes, I think, even as a local, sometimes as a student also, I think about how can I revisit my Singapore without, splurging. Actually, so one of the things that Singapore is so great about is that we really highlight on culture, and like art is something that is growing in Singapore. So sometimes museums can be free for locals, or sometimes might be even low priced for travelers. So I think museums are a great way for you to check out Singapore. And I think one of the museums that actually I enjoy is the Asian Civilization Museum. So over there you can actually see the progression of how the cultures came about in Singapore, like who were the first few immigrants who came to Singapore and started their homes, and how did their homes look like. So those museums are amazing. And talking about food can be really expensive in Singapore, but I, as a local, as a Singaporean, I definitely recommend to you hawker centers. So hawker centers are our pride and joy for Singaporeans, because they are, I guess you would call it like a food court, or like an open space food court, where people are able to get their local delights or
Right.
local goods and local food, at a low price. So like 5, 6, 7, 8. If it's more than 9, you are getting ripped off. So don't go there.
Mhm.
I highly recommend some snacks like wade and like gulab jamun. These are all in the Little India
In the
areas.
mm.
Yeah. So
Okay. And the local foods? What's Singapore's local food?
yes. So because like I said, like Singapore is made up of so many cultures, that it's really
Yeah.
difficult to yes. So it is really difficult for us to pinpoint what's a Singaporean food. But I think Singapore has always seen chili crab as their local food. But
All
I would
right.
say, yeah. So one place I would recommend is Cajun on Wheels. It's a rather expensive place, but I would say that their food is amazing.
And
One thing
it's
that you yeah.
sorry, it goes without saying it's all halal.
Yes, correct. So there are places that serve halal, and there are places that are not. So it would help if if you do some research. But sorry, Cajun on Wheels is definitely halal certified.
All right.
Yes. And one thing I want to highlight on is that McDonald's is halal in Singapore, so I would definitely recommend McSpicy, which is I think our national burger. Spicy,
Okay.
crispy, and amazing.
Okay. All right. And the local language. What language do Singaporeans speak?
So Singaporeans, we grew up with learning English as our main language, and then we also have our mother tongues. So, for example, for myself, I'm Malay, so I learn Bahasa Melayu on top of English. And for my Chinese friends, we learn English and Chinese on top of that, or Mandarin. And then there are also people who learn like English on top of that. We have Tamil or Gujarati. So we are basically all bilinguals, I would say. But if you come to Singapore, one term that you always hear is Singlish, which is basically Singaporean English. It's just the way that Singaporeans speak English. Um,
Right.
yeah, and like sometimes I know if you are a foreigner or a traveler, it wouldn't make sense to you because it'd be like, oh, later I'm gonna go and lepak with my friends. Then you'll be like, what is lepak? So lepak is basically like hang out. It comes from a Malay
Right.
word. Yeah, so you
Okay.
will get the hang of it if you're in Singapore.
Interesting. And what is the national day of Singapore?
So the National Day of Singapore is the 9th August 1965, and that is, I guess you would call it our Independence Day. That was the day that we gained our independence from Malaysia. So before 1965, we were part of Malaysia, and then our Prime Minister thought that we needed to grow on our own to flourish as a city and as a country. So that's the day that we finally broke away from Malaysia, and ever since then, 9th August has been a really emotional day for us Singaporeans, I would say.
And how and how,
And
and
like
how do you yeah, and how do you celebrate?
so we have a huge celebration, I would say. Like leading up to 9th August, you would see a lot of discounts. Malls have discounts and everything. But on the National Day itself, we have the parade. And the parade is something that I think everyone looks forward to. And like, everybody knows that for the parade, they would rehearse every weekend for, I think, 1 month or 2 months before 9th August. And that is when we'll see extravagant fireworks. We would see the national service parade. So, for example, if you're from the police force, you're from the navy, that is where they parade, and then we'll have the lions coming down in a parachute.
Wow.
Yeah. So I spoke to some people who were near the floating platform where the parade was at, and they were saying that it really isn't not just about watching the parade from afar because it's kind of far, right? But then it really is all about camaraderie, with other Singaporeans and like, you know, I was watching it at home, and when the fireworks came about, like all my neighbors came out to the corridor, came out to our common space to just watch the fireworks together. And I think like that's a really nice thing that we can all look forward to as Singaporeans. And it's not just for Singaporeans, also for people who reside in Singapore, like our foreign tenants, our for our foreign friends. I think it's just something that we celebrate together.
Wonderful. Sounds like a very good time to be in Singapore. So, when is the best time to visit Singapore?
Yeah, so if you are into discounts, I would say again the National Day period is a nice day to be in Singapore. So within August or so, but I would suggest to book your tickets early because hotel prices can be crazy and insane during that period. Um, because during that period is when a lot of things are happening, a lot of performances are happening for free, a lot of discounts here and there. So this is definitely a hack if you are traveling to Singapore. But generally, because Singapore is only it's a two weather kind of city, so like just rain or shine, there isn't
Hmm.
really much variation in terms of weather.
Okay.
So
Right.
really just come anytime.
Oh, great. And does the South African passport holder require a visa?
So I just did a check, and you don't need a visa. So you guys can come whenever without a visa. So that's a good news.
Hmm. Well, Noor, I think you're going to invite lots and lots of South Africans after this program to Singapore,
Inshallah.
inshallah. And we'll keep a lookout on your halal trip strategy, the brand itself. I think it's recently that we've learned about this, and I've featured it quite often on my travel segment of the show because I actually didn't know that there was actually a group that promoted halal tourism all over the world. And we always think it's difficult to access halal food or have an authentic Islamic or Muslim experience in a Western country, so to speak. But yeah, it's accessible and it's wonderful that people like yourself are actually doing this and promoting your brand.
Alhamdulillah. And I think like we try our very best to work with authentic, real tourism organizations like Singapore Tourism Board or New York City Go. We work together with them closely to produce lifestyle guides for Muslim travelers. So in the guide, you'll be able to see, food recommendations that are, verified halal, so that you have a peace of mind to travel, and then you have itineraries, you have things to do, and I think guides like this should appear more often within tourism organizations because it's just a lot easier to travel as Muslims. I think
True.
everyone who's listening would know the stress, when it comes to traveling. You don't know where to find halal food sometimes.
True, true, absolutely. Well, it's been a pleasure, like I said, and we wish you all the best, inshallah. Enjoy Singapore for us, and
Inshallah.
please visit warm and sunny and wonderful South Africa,
Yes, looking forward to it. Thank you so much for having me.
inshallah. Assalamu alaikum and jazakallah khair. All right, that's it for our mid morning talk for this week. I'll be back with you, as you know, next Monday between 11 and 1 with the same format of the program. Let's see who our next profile interview will be with and which country are we traveling to. Our wellness segment is always there to guide and hopefully inspire you for better living, inshallah. I'm Najma Kota. Thank you so much for joining me. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.